So first of all, let's start talking about who am I, so you have a better idea of the things that I have done in Canada. So as Joseph mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, I'm an alumni in Canada. I did my bachelor degree in international business administration and international business. I have been in Canada for 15 years now. I work with a different number of institutions, always doing management for them, managing the markets in the Americas and so on. Never been to Indonesia, but feeling the heat here in Brazil, I think I feel I could be in Indonesia right now as well. And then one thing that I have done in Canada, besides studying business, is to run my own business. So I have some knowledge of the industry in Canada, how things normally works there. So I want to start talking to you about why someone should be in business in Canada, why someone should study business in Canada and not in other places. In my opinion, I think when you go to a business career, and that was my case, you get to become a professional that is a little bit more flexible. Okay, so you can fit pretty much anywhere. You become a chameleon, let's put it that way, right? You can work in any type of industry. You don't depend on any specific certification, regulations, and things like this. So you're a very flexible professional. And that means that when you go to a place in Canada, if you have that flexibility, you can choose to be anywhere in Canada. One good thing about Canada, I don't know how Indonesia is on that perspective, is that you find opportunities all over the country. So you're not limited to say, okay, I'm going to live in a bigger city or just because the job is there, or I'm going to live in this other city. You can really choose the type of place where you want to live. And I think that when you go for a business career, you somehow optimizing that because you're flexible to really work in any type of industry with any type of individuals and so on. So for me, that's one first advantage of doing business. It gives you the flexibility to live in the type of places that may fit you better. And that's what happens to me. I come from a really big city in Brazil, but I chose to live in a place that was a little bit smaller, and I'm the happiest ever there. And then I have the same salaries, the same opportunities there. So for me, that's like a first good point for someone that is choosing to go into a business career in Canada. The other thing that I think a business career brings to you is that it really makes you communication skills better. And then it's better than any other type of career, in my opinion. And then I think in Canada, when you have like strong communication, you normally get a little bit further. One thing that I learned about Canada and being a Canadian now myself is that even though we can communicate well in English and all of that, it's not only about that, it's about how you sell, it's how you promote something. And when you go to business, I think you learn to do that a little bit better. So you're a little ahead of everyone else there, especially when you come from somewhere else. So for me, like that communication side is also something that a business career can give to you. And it's something that has helped me get where I am right now, I feel in the end of the day, selling is something that we all should do. And then if you can sell well in Canada, you normally can get further than any other career, to be honest. It's one of the strongest careers that you can do in Canada. And they're not talking about selling a product, but knowing how to sell yourself, how to promote yourself and things like this. And I think business can give you that. I think we are all our own brands and our own companies. And if we know how to sell that, we can get a little bit further there. So that's another reason why I think business career helped me in Canada. The other point is that Canada is kind of like a very globalized country in many ways. It's different than Brazil, let's say. Here in Brazil, we have lots of foreigners, but they are here for 200 years, so they're Brazilians in the end of the day. In Canada, you're going to meet people from anywhere in the world. You're going to meet a Brazilian like me. You're going to meet a Chinese, a Mexican, a Italian, and all of that. I think that's great. And then business is one of the few careers that can leverage that because you can do business right now anywhere in the world, So if you have a friend that is in Korea like me, I have a friend in Korea that sells sunscreen, I can do business with him and bring that to Brazil. Right. So I think it's another way how you can maximize the environment that Canada gives to you. You get to a place where it's very multicultural, very internationalized. And then if you are in a career that can take advantage of that, you are like probably in the right career there. Okay, so for me, those are like some of the characteristics that I think are very, very good, like when considering a business career in Canada. Is also one of the best places to do business. I think Canada is among top 20 places to do business, so that's also very nice. It's a place that has trade agreements with like most places you can imagine, with the US, with Europe. So you are well positioned when you choose to go to Canada and to become a manager, to become a business owner like myself. I think that's like a really, really good thing to do in Canada. So I want to start with that because I think it's important to reinforce that Canada is about business, you know, in the end of the day as well. Now, one thing that I want to talk about as well are the trends that I see for people doing business career. And then why I think you have a really good chance to be employed in Canada. I know to find a job in Canada is key, especially if you're planning to do your immigration process. I don't know how many people are thinking about that, but I know that's something that is very important, is to get a job there. So I think it would be good to understand what are the trends there if you're really going to get a job there, right? One thing that I can tell you is that I see the Canadian economy shifting, and that's why I have a startup. I see the Canadian economy shifting towards a high-tech economy. Canada used to be a resource-based economy, which they will continue to be. But I think there will be more investment, more push, and I see that every day. Like in my region alone, in the region where I live in Canada, they put like $800 million the other day just for startups and things like this. So I see this trend of like high-tech business. And one thing that I see in high-tech is that they have the product, they have the ideas, but they don't have someone that knows how to run business, you know? So for me, it's very good that if you are in business career, you're someone very valuable for those guys. You know, they can be the best engineers in the world, but if they don't know how to sell, if they don't know like how to manage that, it doesn't matter. Their business is not gonna work, right? So there's lots of people in business being hired by those guys. And then one good thing when we talk about high tech, we talk about startups, is that they grow very quickly. And then they grow in a speed that we cannot keep up when we talk about graduating students and all of that. They grow like much faster than anything you can imagine. Like I have a friend that has a unicorn startup. So that means a startup that is worth over $1 billion. That company in the beginning of 2019 used to have 58 employees. Right now, they have 700 employees. Most of those employees are marketing, accountants, managers, right? Because the technology they can take care of, like you can have like a couple of programmers, you can solve the problem, but the sales, the business part of it, you need to hire people for that. And then that's a good way to show investors that you're growing, that you hire more people to sell, you hire more people to run your business, you hire more people to manage the business well. So one trend that I see is the startups gonna be like a big thing in Canada. They're gonna continue to be a big thing. And then those businesses will grow so quick that they will need professionals like yourself, you know, like myself. So that's a good place to be. Okay, so that's one, I think one of the key trends that that I see within Canada. The other trend that I see is that Canada is moving towards automation in many things, not only in industry, but even like in sales and things like this. Like there is always lots of things they're moving towards automation. And that happens because, you know, workforce in Canada is a very expensive workforce, right? So even though if they move to automation, they need people to manage that. They need people to implement that. They need people that understand business, because the business part is hard to automate. Everything else, perhaps they can do, but getting like someone they're going to think strategy, they're going to implement strategy, they're going to read the trends and plan things ahead, it's something that's not going to change. So one thing that I see is that perhaps they're going to need even more managers than before, because they're going to have more complex systems. They're going to have like, you know, with the degree of automation, more challenges and things like this that they never had before. So it'll be very important to have professionals they can be managing that. Okay, so for me, those are like two key trends that I see within Canada that I see on my everyday. You know, like there's other trends that if you research, you can find as well. But those are like the key trends that I see myself. And then I believe with those two trends, if you're a manager, you're going to have a good chance in Canada, and then I know that from my own experience. Of course, I don't look for jobs anymore because I have my own business. I most of the time hiring people and looking for people and stuff like this. But still, like every day, not every day, but every week or every 2 weeks, I get a message on LinkedIn for someone saying, hey, do you manage this type of business? Do you do marketing? Do you do sales? Can you help me with my business? Or I'm looking to someone to hire, things like this. So I see that every day as well. And I think they're gonna continue to be a really strong trend, in my opinion. So those are two trends to watch. I think they'll be very important for the future. Now, people often ask me, so what should I study? What should I do? Right? Like, what type of programs can help me in Canada? And more than that, they ask me like, okay, what should I do to find a job in Canada? And in my 15 years of experience, I have been very thoughtful about that, because I have been in the beginning where like I had no idea what Canada was about. I thought that finding a job would be having a good resume only, or studying something, or having like a certain type of degree, things like that. That's the things that I used to think. But now I think I have a very clear idea of what can give you a job in Canada in an industry. But of course, because of my experience, that would work more for business, in my opinion. I think there are three things that can give you a job in Canada more than anything. The first one is that you can sell your experience, that you can show Canadians that you have experience in something. For Canadians, experience is more important than your type of education, than who you are. It doesn't matter, those things. They care more about like, can you do the job? They're very practical, So in the end of the day, it's about experience. That's like a very important point for you in Canada. If you already carry that experience, that's great. They're gonna be valuable. They're gonna recognize that more than anything else. If you don't carry the experience, you have to find ways to get that. So when you get to Canada, you have to try to do a co-op, like work term. You have to try to do volunteer work. So that way you build that experience. So that's the first point that gives you a job. The second point is the culture. So if you can understand Canadian culture well, it takes long time like to understand culture. So a good way to show that you have at least an idea of what the culture is and so on is having like a good resume, is having a good cover letter, because that shows that you took the time to understand how things works in Canada. So that'll be kind of like the second thing. That one is easy to fix. It's just about you taking your time, studying, using the services that cities, that the college offers, and then find ways to mimic that culture, like try to be the most Canadian you can when you present yourself in an interview, when you interact with people. So you can try to learn about that. So that's an easy fix. The third one that gives you a job in Canada is networking. And then for me, that's the most important. Okay, so meeting people, you have to have references and things like this. So focus your energy on doing that as well. I think that's a very important perspective. And you see, out of those three things, I haven't mentioned in any point the type of education that you should have. I, as a Latin America guy, used to think like, like I have to have this master and then this doctorate, because that's the culture that we have in our countries. I don't know if in Indonesia is the same. In Canada, the idea of status or idea of, okay, like I have this master degree, it doesn't really matter. It matters more that you can do the job in a very practical way, that you can sell what you do well, so you can communicate what you do well. It matters that you have a good resume, that you understand the culture, and it matters that you have good relationships. So don't think about when you're studying abroad, don't think about, okay, I need to have this type of education, because that will be secondary, especially in business career. That will be something that is secondary. I have friends of mine that, I have a bachelor, but I have friends of mine that have done a 2-year diploma in a college, and then they make much more money than me. And they work for companies that are much bigger than the ones that I work for. So as you can see, it's not the type of program that you take. I think that is very important. Is how you get your experience, how you transform that using a program, how you can make that experience validated in Canada, and how you can sell that experience to a Canadian. And then plus that, understand the culture and do good networking. Okay, so I want you to remember that, because I don't know how Indonesia is on that side, but I know from my Latin American mind, from my Brazilian mind, that we always thought that was about the diploma that we have, but in the end of the day, that's not the case in Canada. Okay, so remember that. Now, talking about that, I have two programs that I want to promote to you today, that I want to show you how they would work and then how they can help you with Canada. I'm glad that I chose those two programs because they are very different in nature. Even though they're from business perspective, I think they encapsulate two approaches that you can have when arriving to Canada. So I have the Global Business PDD, is a graduate certificate program. It's a postgraduate diploma. So it's a 2-year program. It helps you with getting the post-graduation work permit, all of that. 2 years, it's a program that you take after your bachelor. That's one option, okay? Global business. The other option is our accounting program. So it's the PDD in administration and accounting. What is different about this program and what is the benefit of each type of program? So let's start with the PDD in global business, administration, global business, okay? What makes the program special is that the program gives you, first of all, something that is more flexible. So you study in different areas in business. So you're not focusing in one area. That could be good and could be bad. And I'll explain why. It gives you a global perspective to it. So let's say when you're doing human resources, let's use human resources as a part of the program. You're not learning about how to hire someone in Canada. You're learning about how can I get someone in Indonesia and then put that person in my Canadian company that I run in Brazil. How can I make that transfer? How can I help that person make that transition? So it brings you a global perspective to it in every single aspect. In marketing, you're not thinking about how you promote to Canadians. You're thinking about how can I promote that global brand? Why should I do to adjust my brand if I go somewhere else? If I'm McDonald's and I go to a place where they don't eat meat, what can I do? Right? So you look into the global perspective, you know? I think that's very important. And then as someone that is coming from somewhere else, we're not Canadians, right? By nature, we're going to become Canadians at some point. But someone that is coming from somewhere else, I think your biggest value is your languages and is the fact that you know another market that is not Canada, that you have access to other places that are not Canada. So if you can validate that with the global perspective that the program carries, you become like a very interesting professional. That was my case. I did my bachelor with the major in international business. I speak Portuguese, I speak Spanish. I start working for the college where I graduate, right? They will be their manager in Latin America because they're looking for clients from Latin America. They're looking for students from Latin America. And then I was someone that understood the process of running business internationally because of my education. But also I understood other culture. I'm from somewhere else as well. I have the other flavor. I have the language too. You know, so for us, I think it brings the perspective, like it brings something special for us because we already come from someone else. It's most probably that when you get hired by a company, if that company is smart enough, and then I would be smart if I hire some of you, I would say, can you help me run the business in Indonesia? What can I do? You know, like what are the next steps if I want to run the business? Okay, so I think the program gives you that. And then the program gives you the flexibility, as I said, because it's more generalist as a program. Okay, so that's one type of program that you can look into. Now, if we look into the accounting, you have like the kind of like an opposite type of program because you have a type of program where you're more a specialist. You're focusing in one specific area. In that program, your goal is to get your CPA. That's the goal of the accounting program. So you get your certified professional accountant, chartered accountant. So it's more about that. So you become a specialist. That can be good and can be bad. Canadians in particular, they prefer specialists, in my opinion. So for me, it's better to be a specialist, to be in a program like the accounting program, because then you have a very clear path. You have a very clear job that you do. And I think that makes it a little bit easier for you to sell to a Canadian, like that job that you do. And then makes you more valuable because you are someone that can do that really well. That's kind of like what the program would offer. So different than the other program, because in the other program, you're more generalist. But in the other program, you have the advantage of being someone that is more globally employable. Versus when you go to something like accounting, you're going to be a more specialist. You're probably going to find a job quicker in Canada, but then you're limited to that environment. You're going to be limited to the tax system that Canada has and things like this. So those are two different approaches for you to arrive in Canada. It all depends on, of course, your ambition, the way how you think you're going to work, the type of jobs that you're looking for. If you ask me which one going to make my life easier in Canada, probably the accounting will make your life easier, because it'll be a little bit easier for you to tell Canadians, look, this is exactly what I do. And then I'm expert on this. I have a certification, a CPA certification. I work as a Canadian, so easy to do because it's standardized for them, right? In that way. But then the other program, the global business, can give you more doors across the world. So it could work as well. It all depends on what you want to focus on. Both have like a really high employability everywhere you are. In the island where we're located, I'll talk about the college after. The employability for both programs are really good. Like, so you have an idea in accounting. I was very skeptical about accounting when I got the project with North Island College. So I went and spoke with the accountant in the college to ask about like the field in the island, how everything worked there, And then she told me, it was a lady there, and then she was like, man, we need accountants. We need accountants here because we cannot get that many accountants graduated. Most people that do accounting, it's like in big cities, and then they're not necessarily where we are. So we have lots of jobs. Like she was hiring 3 people, and then she could not find. She has to go to another city, find someone in Vancouver, let's say, hire the person and bring to the island because she could not find in the island. So what I see there is there is a gap on that type of professional there. And there's the same gap for business, because like we are the one college that can graduate as many people, but then there's lots of business there. And then if you go to a big city, there will be probably like lots of people in business, because normally like in big cities, people choose business more often, right? I think that's similar in Indonesia. But then when you choose to go to a place like a Comox, you see that there is not that many. So you become someone special there, And then if you carry already a passport for another country, if you carry like the understanding of the culture from another country, you have even more value there, in my opinion, So this is good for places like Comox, but still you can find lots of opportunities across Canada. In most business programs, the employment rates are above like 85% in all colleges. With us, it's above like 90%. Okay, so it's a very high employment rate. And then in the end of the day, if your plan is to immigrate, finding the job is the key. Going to a place where you can have like high employability is very key, in my opinion. Okay, so as a summary of like what is to take those programs in Canada, I think is to take a program that will continue to be, any of the two, will continue to be a profession that exists in Canada. So it's not going to be automated. And then if anything, it's going to be something that they're going to value more and more within time, is to be close to the environment that Canada going to put the money on, which is startups and things like this. I think that's one key thing of choosing those programs. And is to be someone that is valuable in Canada, is to be someone that can bring value to Canadian companies. So for me, choosing any of those 2 careers is going to give you that. You can choose to be a specialist with accounting and get your CPA. You can choose to be a global employable person if you choose global business. Okay, so both are good options for you there. Now, why not to take a master or MBA? Like that's another question that people ask me. Why should I do the graduate certificate? In Canada, again, it doesn't really matter what you take. It matters what you do. It's practical. So first reason for that. Second reason, probably you're gonna pay twice more if you do a master. So it's a matter of efficiency, especially for the accountants. You can make those numbers, run those numbers very quickly. You're gonna see that it's a matter of efficiency. If you do, I can give you like a example from my personal experience. If you take a 2-year program in a college, you do a graduate certificate, normally, if you manage to work the 20 hours that you can work in Canada and all of that, normally, once you graduate and then you have your post-graduation work permit, within 1.5 years, so 1 year and 6 months, you recover your investment. If you go to an MBA, it's probably going to take you 3 to 4 years. And then you don't have 3 to 4 years unless you become a resident permanent in Canada, right? You have 3 years for your post-graduation permit, sometimes 2 years. So the fact that you can recover your investment is already another good reason to choose like a PDD, especially if it doesn't really matter for a Canadian if you're MBA or PDD, like from a hiring perspective. The other reason to not take an MBA is that you're probably going to be doing more research than doing practical things. So if you don't, especially if you don't have that work experience, the extensive work experience when you arrive in Canada, I think it's not a good idea because you need to have that practical experience as you go through. Okay, so those are some of my opinion there. And then I have seen that in very practical ways, like when I'm hired, I don't care if you are a PDD or if you're an MBA. I don't care at all. If my friends hire, they don't care too. Unless like I really need something that is very specific. I need you to go to another country to get money for research. Then I may hire an MBA, But if not, it doesn't make any difference for me. It's better for me to hire someone that knows how to do the job. And that's what I want, So I think it's a smart idea to choose PDD in my personal opinion. Of course, you're going to find opportunities with MBAs and masters and all of that. But then if the goal is to arrive to Canada, to be successful in Canada, that's not a requirement. And that's what I want to leave as a message to you today. Okay. Now, let me talk a little bit about who we are as a college, so you can understand how we can help you with those programs and so on. So as a college, we are located in what is Vancouver Island. That's the west part in Canada, So the extreme west part in Canada, closer to you than to me, So that's in the Pacific side of Canada. We're located in a city which is called Comox Valley. So it's a region that is called Comox Valley. And then in very practical terms, what I think makes a difference in Comox Valley, and then I tell that you in all seminars that I do, is that it can give you efficiency. And then it can give you efficiency in a good fashion. So it's a beautiful place to start with, good weather, comparing, of course, to other parts of Canada. I know if Indonesia is not comparable, but beautiful place in a way that you have mountains, you have beaches and things like this, which is very nice place to be. But I think that's not the reason why you choose Comox, I think you choose Comox because you're looking for efficiency. So what I mean by efficiency, first, cost of living. So you're going to spend 30 to 40% less than you'd spend in somewhere like Toronto or Vancouver. So you're saving 30 to 40% already. If you can save 30 to 40%, it's very plausible that you can make the plan that I told you, where you're recovering your investment 1.5 years after you graduate. Because you can probably cover your expenses with the 20 hours that you're going to work, that you are allowed to work during your education. Okay, so good place to be. First point of efficiency is the cost, very key there. The other point is that, remember the 3 things that I told you about finding a job in Canada. One that is very key is the networking. Being a community, being a place like Comox, means that people are more accessible. You're probably going to go to the same coffee shop and see the same person every day, So at some point, the person is going to say hi to you because they're going to be, hey, you live in here already. Let me find out who you are. So one thing that I love there, and I have seen that in my city, in the city where I live in Canada, even though that now it's like a little bit bigger, the place where I live in Canada. So the community sense is moving away. I see a place that is very community-based. And then being community-based means that once you know someone there, you probably know everyone, and then people will be willing to help you out. And that's, I think, is very key. That's the thing that we as an immigrant should be thinking, as the most important thing to do when we arrive to Canada. Because like we think about how much you're gonna spend, we think about how hard gonna be our PR, but the hardest thing we have is that we're gonna arrive to somewhere where we don't know anyone, where we don't have our family, where we don't have the connections that we need to find a job. So getting to a place where you can build those connections a little bit easier can be very useful to you. And then it's part of those 3 points that I told you that will be necessary to help you finding a job. Okay, so for me, that's like the real value that you get there. You get like a place where you have people that are gonna help and they're gonna be more accessible. I have a personal example. At one point, I had like the mayor from a city in Brazil coming to visit us. I was supposed to take the guy to different cities in Canada, to different towns and things like this. In places like Comox, I send an email to the mayor. They right away answer me. I could get the meeting. In places like Toronto, I send an email. I haven't received a response up to today. So that's like 4 years later, no one ever responded me. So that's the type of environment that you may want to choose if you want to have like more help in the moment that you're looking for a job after, okay? The other point of efficiency here is that it's small. Everything is close. And then that seems like something that may be counterproductive. Why would I want to go to somewhere small? But I think when you arrive to somewhere new, being a smaller place makes your life much easier, because let's say if you're married and then your wife or your husband wants to work because the person can work like full time, you have only one car because you're not going to buy 2 cars in Canada because insurance is so expensive. Or maybe you have to take the bus. If you have to drive like an hour to drop the person in their job and go to school after, your life becomes a headache. If you're traveling with your family and then you finish the day, you have no time to your family, it becomes a headache as well. So being a place like this means that you're going to be 15 minutes away from everything. And then I think in the beginning, that's very useful. Later on, when you become like millionaire, you can have good cars and all of that, then it's different because like you can move around the way that you want. But in the beginning, especially, I think it's really good to have that. Like I didn't know how good it was until I came back to Brazil, like to visit my family the first time. That was in 2013. And then I was in traffic for an hour and a half from the airport. And I was like, man, I'm wasting my time. And then if you want to meet people, having like somewhere that is smaller helps you too. Like if I go for meetings in Vancouver, it takes me the entire day to meet 2 people. So I'm running a business. I need to meet people 2 days. In one day, I can see 2. In Comox, I can see 4. So that's 2 more opportunities that I can take in doing business. That's kind of like how I see it. So that's how a place like Comox can help you. It can give you that type of efficiency. And I think as an immigrant, you want to arrive in a place where you can find efficiency. I think that's very important. In my personal experience, that is something that is very important. So probably you want to find the place that you feel great about. So it's a place that you feel like, okay, this place is for me. I feel happy here. I have the activities that I have. But at the same time, you want to find a place where you can find efficiency. And it's about balancing those 2 things out. Okay. Here are some numbers of the region. So you have an idea. I think the key number that you have here, those 2. So the unemployment rate in there is very low. It used to be among the top lowest in Canada. Okay, those numbers are from 2019 because with the pandemic, the government is slow in taking statistics now. But that's very significant because in the year where like we had 3.7 unemployment rate, in Vancouver, they had 7%. So you can compare there. So when people say there's no jobs there because it's a small town, that's not true. Proportionally, we have probably more opportunities because there's less people to take those jobs. That's what I want to show you. The other important number is that the average age or the median age there is 51. So that happens because in the past 20 years, most people that arrived to Comox were people that decide to retire there because they want to retire close to the mountains or the beach and all of that. They're looking for a good place. It's like me At some point, they're going to retire in Indonesia because I'll be like, I want to be in the beach, it'll be much better, you know? So they decide to go there to do that. And that, of course, push the average age and the median age much higher. So that means if you're a young professional, if you are interested in working, the money is there, but the people that are there not going to work anymore, you know, because they are tired. They want to have a good coffee and that's it, a Jakarta coffee, and that's it, you know, that's all they're looking for. So if you're a young professional, you're probably going to have lots of opportunities there, is even when you're studying, because a lot of the jobs that you find there, and I'll talk about the key industries there so you have an idea, are jobs in services, in restaurants, in hotels, in spas, and things like this, where of course they're going to need accountants, where of course they're going to need business people to run, you know? So good place to be there. There are certain areas that are stronger there. Those are the three that I listed there. Tourism and hospitality, because it's a very touristic area. Everything related to healthcare, and then healthcare really need good managers. So I think that's a good place to go. If you arrive to Canada and can find a job in healthcare, we need that, you know, because it's very, very like a complex system there and so on. We have lots of companies that are in the aviation field, so maintenance and things like this. So if you're like a professional that is good in supply chain, logistics, and then you do like global business, that could be like a good option for you. And then another field that is growing up right now, as I said, we have all the startups and all of that. So anything related to digital is really, really strong right there. Okay, so any of those areas will need someone like you, someone that can run the business, can run the show for them, or someone like me as well. Okay, and then I will show the services for you. Here are all the programs. One good thing that we have in our programs is that most programs have a work component. That could be either a co-op work term, so that means like a paid work term. It could be an internship, or it could be a consulting project. In business, you probably want to do the third one, the consulting, because you want to work in more high level. I personally did my consulting, in my case, with the largest food distributor in Canada when I was doing my program. And that for me is like an amazing experience, because I'm not working in an entry-level job. I'm working with the senior manager and things like this. So I think that's where like you can probably get more experience. But then we also have the internships and other things that you can do too. We as a college, we make our money from the government by getting you jobs. So we are very caring about that. So we have like our own events where you can find like people, meet companies, learn about the industries and things like this. So we do a lot of network events that can help with the third point, right? The networking. So that's very key. We do that a lot. We have our own services for student support. So if you're looking to find out how to make your resume and things like this, like we have that service for you there. So the culture part, the second point that I told you, we have like people there in the college, counselors that are dedicated to help you out, you know, and that's not exclusive of us. All Canadian colleges are very strong with that. But it's very important that you know that the service is there, because it's not that we're going to take your hand and tell you, hey, go to this place here, and then we're going to help you with a job. You have to search for that. You have to go there and then talk to the counselors. It's there available for you. And then it makes me crazy how so many people don't use that service, you know, go ahead and use it. Like it was so helpful for me, you know, like it literally like made me find a job like a week later. Because I was doing everything wrong. I was doing the resume wrong. I was doing the interview wrong, right? So that's a service that we have there. And then the entire structure that the college have is all about you finding a job. So the programs will always have companies that are part of the development of the program. We have at least 6 companies for each program that we have. There are companies that tells us, look, if you're doing global business, they should know this, this, and this. They should use this type of model, business model. They should, if they're doing accounting, they should know how to deal with these types of problems, because we have those problems all the time. So we have like 6 companies always as part of the program. We have the teachers, they always have to have work experience. They can have like 10 doctorate degrees. It doesn't matter. If they didn't work for 5 years, they cannot teach for us. So you see, it's very important for us, the job aspect. And that's really how we can help. We can help you, give you an environment where you can develop your networking, where you can gain the experience. And then we're going to do everything possible for you to be successful in finding a job. Okay, so that's very key for us in there. Here are some numbers for the college. We don't have that many Indonesian students there. So that's why we are like looking to get more. We're looking for diversity. We're looking to have like people that brings different perspectives. Like if I had the chance to meet, I never met an Indonesian in my college time. If I had the chance, it would be great, because probably I'll be doing business with that person right now. I do business with different parts of the world already, but I don't have. If anyone there wants to do business with me, let me know, okay? Because I'm always open for that. So yeah, that's why we're looking for the more Indonesian students, more students from other places, Here are the costs, so you have an idea. Our annual fees for both programs that we just talked is $17,000, and that supplies and then all the health insurance and all of that. Okay, so here are the costs for you to have as a reference. Here are some estimates on how much you're gonna pay for your living. Again, 40% less than Vancouver and then Toronto. So you're saving 40% right there. As a matter of comparison, you can rent like a house, okay? So big house, garden, everything for 1,600 Canadian dollars. So it's a really, really good like place to be. A little bit of our services. I just want to thank you for the opportunity, the time that you guys gave me, the attention as well. And I want to say, like, if you plan to go to Canada, do it. Like, I think Canada is a really awesome place, in my opinion. Like, I moved to Canada when I was 17, and then it has been always a great experience. It's a place that is very fair. Like, if you work hard, if you put the right effort, you normally get the right results. So for me, that's very, very good. And it's a place where I say you can live with a little bit less anxiety, because it's stable, you know how things gonna be all the time. So it's a really, really good opportunity. I think it opens you a lot of doors as well. So really go ahead. Like, if you have that in mind, if you have the plan, if you're dreaming about that, I think the best thing you can do is to take action and go ahead with that. So thank you very much.